sometimes I feel I don't belong also. Like they all dress so like, and they look so classy, and I'm like just a broke student. But yeah, I mean.
Welcome to the Tropical
Arts Club today.
We have a guest, as usual. But today's guest is slightly different from other guests before.
Wow, John. Such a nice introduction.
Thank you.
Alright, so we're going to introduce our next guest, who I'm really excited to have on the show. He's a friend, he's an amazing artist, he is hiding behind two plants right now.
And we recently went to his show and it was amazing.
So our next guest is actually currently a student at Yale US College, but by the time we release this episode, he would have been graduated. But I would like to say at point of filming, he is a current student, still has essays to submit, still trying to meet deadlines and chase professors for help.
Hustle, don't sleep.
And he is an urban studies major in Yale US College. But what you do not know, he's also an intermedia visual and performing artist. What does that mean? We don't know, but we'll find out. But he is super talented. He's been all over the world. His work has been in international festivals as well as local festivals such as the Singapore Fringe Festival. And so we are excited to have him here today, who we'll be talking all about his work, all about his life, all about his maybe homework that he has to finish. And now, presenting the one and only Sean Cham!
Ta-da! Welcome to the show, Sean. Could I get the sponsor?
Yeah. Welcome. How are you feeling?
Good.
Oh no.
Thanks for having me. Oh no.
It's alright. I will this maneuver.
What is going on?
Alright.
So thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
We know you're very busy with all your different
responsibilities.
And we just came from watching Sean's latest show, First Stories, which was part of the Future of Our Past festival this year. Can you tell us a little bit about that show?
So it's part of the bicentennial kind of commemorations, where it was a theatrical installation talking about housing history in Singapore, kind of challenging the state narrative in some sense, bringing nuances into the history. So what the audience experienced was coming into a disused building, community center at Bukit Ho Swee, and they had this entire 2 hours experience, kind of being in the shoes of the residents and seeing what resettlement was like in the past.
Yeah, how did you find the show?
So, full disclosure, I'm not a huge theater person. That's why we have a host who is very into live performance to balance out the dynamic. Time to drop the hosty voice. So, First Stories was mind-blowing. So I wish you were there to see it, because right from the moment you step through the gates of this huge building, you're just roped into this beautifully crafted universe that Sean has sculpted with his hands, with his crew, and with his mind and his soul and his heart.
And
I'm rambling.
Yeah, and I got really angry in the show because it's interactive, and I kind of scolded his actor.
Yeah, but it's hands down one of the most fun live theater experiences I've ever been to in my life.
Yes.
And I've been alive for a while.
Oh, okay. John. All right, so that's a little bit about First Stories, and if you ever want to go check out, Google it. I'm sure there's people writing about it, and you can kind of live through the experience. But I think the more important question is, Sean calls himself an intermedia visual and performing artist. What does that mean, Sean?
I have no idea.
Maybe let's break it down term by term. Intermedia visual.
I think you can break it down to intermedia, and then visual, and then performing, and then artist. And maybe end.
Ant-Man in Avengers Endgame.
So intermedia is because I play with different mediums, and kind of, for me, it's more about telling stories and choosing the right medium to kind of convey those stories. So be it dance, theater, photography. So that's what I meant by intermedia, and kind of also in some projects kind of merging these mediums together as well. Visual is visual. So I do photography mostly, but I also draw, paint. Performing, I act, I try to dance. I can't sing, but I try to sing.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then I just mesh all of this together because I don't know what to call myself. So yeah.
So when you were like sitting down, writing that
Mhm.
on your website to describe yourself, like what was the process like to like figure out what's the right term to call yourself?
Like I felt artist was too generic because if I always introduce myself as an artist, people say, "Oh, you draw." I was like, "No, not really." So you take photos? Yeah, kind of. What kind of photos? Portraits or like? So it's very generic. People always have this conception of what an artist is. So I just wanted to add more nuance to that term by adding all this like mishmash of things that hopefully fits together. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, of all these different disciplines that you're in, what do you think is the primary one that sticks out the most out of everything?
It's tough. I would say photography. Just because most of the things I've done so far is photography and photo based. But yeah, I also do enjoy theatre as well. So First Stories was me venturing into theatre like professionally in some sense. Yeah.
And so when was the point you knew you wanted to go into the arts? Because right now you're studying urban studies in school. So when did you know like, oh, I want to like go into this kind of like field of just making work in different medium?
I think it began when I was in secondary one. Okay, I was doing French then. Yeah, so I do. Yeah.
Wow. Je m'appelle Shanice.
Croissant.
Oui. But yeah, that was the only thing that I knew, and yeah, it was really tough for me, and I just like, okay, I can't do this. I don't understand what they were talking about, and they just went on like super fast. It's like, okay, I can't do this. So after like less than half a year, I just like, okay, I'm done with this. So I switched over to art, the AEP program in school. I just went up to the teacher and say, I really can't do French. Can I do art instead? And then she was like, okay, sure. And then that's how I started. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really by coincidence. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, what secondary school was this?
I was from Raffles Institution.
I see.
Wow. Shout out to Raffles Institution.
The boys in white. The other boys in white.
Oh yeah, there's so many.
There's so many
A lot.
boys.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Shout out to fabric whitener.
No. Alright, so tell us about like your first work that made you realize that this was something that you're gonna do like professionally.
I guess it was Yesteryears. So Yesteryears was a photo series that I did in 2014. So it was 5 years ago. At the time I was still in army. I didn't know what I wanted to do after, and I was very bored because it was like nearing like the ORD period, so it was like a lull period sort of. Yeah. And so I just started to think of like what I wanted to do in the future, and I missed like doing art because in that 2 year period I didn't touch my camera at all. I didn't do anything creative at all. I was just like in the fields. So yeah. Yeah, so I picked up my camera and just at that point in time, my grandmother was going through like a relocation, and that became like a source of inspiration for me. And yeah, I just went out, started taking photos, and it became 50, and then it became popular on social media, and then this is how it just like just spiraled from there. Yeah.
I have a question about the 2 year gap between making art. Do you think that period of time not making art somehow might have made you a better artist?
Ooh. I have no idea. Wait, no.
Perhaps the desire to go back confirm something within you?
I don't think it has made me a better artist. I guess it was things that was, just suppressed within me, and it's just like wanting to come out, and then after that 2 years it's just like, okay, everything's just coming out right now.
And so you've been doing Yesteryears, and then it's kind of got popular. So then how then did that shape kind of your choice of education? Did you know you want to continue pursuing the arts, or did you want to study something else?
So before yesteryears, I was supposed to go into NUS Business. Oh, shout out to NUS Business. But of course I rejected them after doing yesteryears. I mean, the process had allowed me to, reflect on what I wanted to do in the future. And I realized I would have not survived life if I was in business school. I would just have died in many ways. But yeah, so I decided to rethink my choices and applied to Yale NUS. Because at the time, it was too late to apply to any overseas college, and I was too lazy to do any other applications. So, yeah.
Shout out to Yale and US College.
Shout out to
Easy
Yale and US
admission process.
Wow. I'm literally surrounded by Yale and US
Yes.
people today.
Yale and US alumni right here. Sponsor us.
Cool. Where were we? Yeah, overseas.
So wait, but why did you choose business? Like, what made you choose that option in the first place?
To be fair, it was also a very easy application process. I just had to click a button,
Okay.
and then so that was it. And I didn't really think much at the point in time because I was going through army and I was psyching myself up for army and I didn't want to think about anything else. So yeah, I just took the easy way out and just like, okay.
But was it something like you wanted to run a business after business school, or?
I think it was just for me it was a very safe option because most of my family members, my extended family were in business school, so my parents were like, okay lah, people have done it before, so it should be a good path. So it's like, okay, then I just followed what they said and just like applied for it. Yeah.
That's it. Are you the first family member who went deep into the arts?
Yes. Yeah. So sometimes I even find it hard to explain to my relatives like what I do. So they say, you're an artist. Yeah. So you draw. So it's the entire same conversations. Like, no. So, but I find it hard to explain in depth what I do. So I was just like, yeah, I draw. Yeah.
So you applied for Yale and US College, and at that time, like Yale and US is a new school, a new system in Singapore. And then how do you get to choosing like your major, which is urban studies, and not an arts and humanities major, which I was, instead of why urban studies and not like pursuing arts in Yale and US?
I think the education year and year shaped me in some sense that it was a liberal arts college, so you could do many disciplines. There was a common curriculum. But yeah, so it was looking at the same issue from different perspectives. And I guess that helps me in my artistic practice as well. Looking at the same issue from different dimensions, from different point of views, from different stakeholders and so on and so forth. And I guess since I do a lot with like urban issues in my work, for me, I thought going into urban studies was a more, I don't know how to put it, but like, I just chose it because it was an instinctual kind of decision, because yeah, I wanted to learn more about what is surrounding my work in terms of conversations and so on, so I chose urban studies instead. Yeah.
And do you think it's important for artists to study other kind of issues that inform their work, or is it? I mean, what's your opinion on like the kind of education you choose to improve yourself as an artist? Is it important to go more technical, into the craft, into the technique, or you think it's better to learn other things that you bring back into your work?
I think it really depends on the artist, right? And kind of the work they do as well. So some might be, more technical, like the paintings, and you really need to like have a good craft. Need to understand the material and the entire like process behind a painting or so on and so forth. But for me, what I really want to do is through art tell stories. So the art itself is just like a vehicle to tell the stories. Not so much that I really want to. As much as the craft is important, what I really wanted to do is to put forth like these stories and these messages, and to me that's more important than the craft itself. Yeah.
So your work as an artist has been showcased in many places around the world, and again, this is while Sean is still in school.
Yes, and some of the places that I'm just gonna list: Ethiopia. How do you get to Ethiopia? But anyway, Sweden, South Korea,
Dan.
and Singapore. Just of course.
Shout out to Michael Winslow. So, how did your work end up in this like international circuit? Because this is really impressive.
Yeah.
Really impressive.
To be fair, and to be honest, it was literally me just, oh, there's an open call, let me just submit it here. And then, yeah, just submitting my work. So it was really just letting my work speak for itself, and really seeking opportunities wherever I can find, going through like online websites, Facebook pages, and yeah, wherever I can find, I just like submit my work and just let the work do its job. Yeah.
And how important is it for artists to kind of put their work in the circuit, right? Or do you think that is a good gauge of how good your work is? Or how do you see the circuit for you, you know, every time it's accepted into like a festival or something like that?
Like every time I'm accepted into a festival, like I really feel very humbled. Cause like Singapore's such a small country. Like who wants to hear stories from Singapore? But yeah, so like whenever they decide to show these work, cause my work are very Singapore centric. For now, so whenever they decide to show, like for example yesterday in Ethiopia, I was like, wow, that's really something. Cause like bringing these Singapore places, Singapore stories, into another country and sharing these stories with different people from different diverse backgrounds. I think it's a very humbling experience, and it's a very great opportunity to kind of put your work out there and to see how people receive your work. Yeah.
Was there a country and your interactions with it that maybe changed the course of your career?
Changed the course of my career.
Maybe to elaborate on that, like you gain a lot more perspective about the place you're from by experiencing like other places. So was there maybe through your interactions with these international art shows that changed how your work presents Singapore?
Not really. Because most of the times my work is there alone. Like I don't follow my works there because no money. But yeah,
NAC.
Yes. But yeah, so like it's very hard to like find funding to travel there, even though your work is traveling there. So it's like, okay, I'm just gonna let my work do their own job while like staying back in Singapore. So usually like, yeah, for most of the shows, actually all the shows, I've never actually been to Ethiopia or Sweden. But yeah, but I guess because my works feature myself inside, so I guess I've been there. Yeah, so like I haven't had the opportunity to travel that much. So one day I hope I do. So yeah, so far these exhibitions have not really changed how I approach my work. Yeah.
Has there been any interaction then between yourself and the people who have viewed your work in these countries that you weren't physically in?
Sometimes I receive Facebook requests and I'm like, where's this person from? It's like Ethiopia. Strange, but it's just like a second. But yeah, usually it just ends at a friend request. Sometimes they'll send a message. So a guy from France once sent me a message saying he liked my work. So it's like, okay, thank you. But I really don't know how to like proceed from there. Yeah, so perhaps I think it's better with like face-to-face interaction, and really interacting with the people out there. So perhaps one day.
One day.
To
all the people out there, if you want to send Sean to see his own exhibition,
yes,
please do.
So we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll get more time with Sean Cham. That was very strangely paced. It will not be dangerous or nefarious at all.
Please enjoy our next ad break. Ding. ¿Necesitas una vacación? ¿Trabajas mucho? Bienvenido al Club de Tropical Artists. Una vacación para todos los artistas, todos. Tenemos una piscina, una playa, un centro comercial y
Tenemos una piscina.
estamos al lado de montañas y tenemos un restaurante.
Welcome back to the Tropical Arts Club.
We're here with Sean Cham.
Who is an amazing artist and a student and a wearer of cool shirts. Have you ever seen like a faint paisley print before? I have not. This is a very cool shirt.
Where did you get your shirt from?
Yeah.
I have no idea. Where's it from?
We're doing this. I guess we're doing this.
No.
MEIT.
I have no idea.
Shout out to MEIT. It's the Massachusetts Electronic Institute of Technology.
Legit. Okay.
All right,
Alright.
back to the interview and the arts. So, Sean, you are juggling life as a student
Mhm.
and as a professional artist.
Yes.
What does your week look like?
Wow. It really depends on whether I have a project that I'm working on. So, for example, for First Stories, oh my god, wow. I have classes, so I choose classes strategically so that I don't have to go for school that much.
Life hack.
So I cram everything into like 2 days. So I go
Wow.
for school for like 2 days. So, for example, this semester I only have classes on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then literally I have a long weekend just to do art.
Wow.
Yeah. So from Friday all the way to Monday, I'm just doing First Stories. When I was working on First Stories, so for example, once I'm done with schoolwork on Tuesday and Wednesday, Thursday and Friday I'll be writing the script, editing the script. Then in the evening I'll be going for rehearsals, and then the weekend there'll be rehearsals. And it just repeats every week. Yeah.
Wow. And apart from the very brilliant strategy of cramming everything in 2 days, do you have any advice for students who want to get into arts, want to get into something else, but perhaps don't have the luxury of having a 2-day
Yeah.
2-day work week? Shout out to MOE.
Shout out to them. What I would say is, while school is important, get out of school. Like, really go and explore what's outside of school. Because school can be so much of a bubble. It's very insular. And while it's important to learn and important to improve your craft and important to study hard, get good grades, meritocracy. But yeah, it's also important to, if you want to know what's out there, to just attend shows, gallery openings, theatre shows, just to see what's out there, what people are creating, what people in your field or outside your field are doing, just to get a taster of everything and to understand where your work is in comparison, or where does it stand in relation to everything else out there.
I have a question for you, and this is something I've heard younger artists, especially those in school, talk about. They feel out of place, like they don't belong at gallery openings and shows, etc. As a professional artist, what would you say to these folks?
Sometimes I feel I don't belong also. Like, they all dress so like, and they look so classy, and I'm like, just a broke student. But yeah, I mean, it's really just being comfortable with yourself, and just going to shows regularly, and soon you'll see like familiar faces, and you make connections, and people might approach you, they might not approach you, but regardless, making your presence known is important, so that oh, I've seen this face before, you look familiar, and then conversations will flow naturally from there. Yeah. So like, I'm an introvert, so like I hate like mingling or like talking to people, and it's just very draining for me, but it's an important skill, an important part of your art career as well, just like talking to people, understanding like what their practice is, and yeah, just learning from them as well, and I think it's a very important skill. Yeah.
Are there like any secret like lines you always use for when you first meet artists, like good openings that you can share with our viewers out there?
Wow.
Like, what do you think? Howdy, artist.
Hey, I really like your work.
These are
think
terrible.
you're
Let's hear
amazing.
it from the pro.
I said that yesterday. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's always nice to like start with like how you react to the person's work, and how you, and what you take from it, and what you, yeah, basically just your thoughts, and just be true to yourself. And once that genuinity comes through, I think people will be more willing to talk to you and share with you. Because I think in general, people in the art scene are very, very kind. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Quite loud.
yeah,
We try lah,
most
we
of
try.
them are. Most of them.
Hopefully, like you are, yeah.
Yeah. So generally people are very kind, and are very willing and open to share and talk. So just have fun and be open.
And one more question stemming from that. As an introvert, how do you like people to interact with you after your shows? Because I understand sometimes people can feel like they're imposing, and some people just go for it, and it's painful to watch.
I guess there's no right or wrong answer, right? But sometimes I just play by ear lor. Like if they're really enthusiastic, like I'll try to match their enthusiasm. But after that I'm like, oh, this is so tiring. But I mean I'm really grateful for like this kind of feedback and like this kind of comments. Like people like come up to me and say they really like the work and they really resonate with it. I'm like it's really very heartening as an artist to just hear, because you're not only creating work for yourself, you're creating the work for like other people to understand. And especially for me, I'm doing like a lot of work on like social issues, so like so it's important to like get the message across. So like it's really important that people resonate with it and like take something away from it. So these are very heartening moments for me. Yeah.
Talking about work about social issues, you're quite a young artist. You're 25 this year. And how do you feel as a young voice, voicing about maybe certain things that may be in conflict with governmental things? How do you feel about like as an artist putting work out there like that? Because First Stories for me was pretty political. It was about the housing system, and it was still revealing a lot of things about current governmental things.
Yeah. I think my own personal stand and my own personal take is that to not be confrontational, because when fire fight fire, nothing comes out from it. But my own personal, I think it's a running trend in most of my works, is using satire and humor instead of like, I hate this, but really putting the facts out there, reality out there, and then putting that in contrast with like other realities and looking at the kind of the conflicts and like the issues that come up from it that people don't really see day to day. Yeah.
Have you ever received like backlash for the kind of issues that you're kind of voicing about, or have you ever been like afraid, like, oh, I'm young, are they gonna blacklist me? Or
So I've actually been censored before. Not really outrightly censored, but like so for the M1 Fringe Festival, which was posters about talking about migrant issues, which had very interesting messaging. That work was originally, I would say, censored in the sense that they told me to change the wording, because the first set of images were the first iteration of it was very, not really confrontational, but in your face. Like there were a lot of like accusatory remarks as well, which were not in favor of certain ministries, and so IMDA was kind of wary of that, so we had to change the messaging for that. But then I took a different approach from that, and it became more of the more satirical, more humorous kind of messaging, and it's different. It's different kind of feel to it, but both works. Yeah.
On hindsight, would you have gone ahead with a different message from the start, or would you have stuck to your guns and seen if it would been let fly?
While I believe in the integrity of the work, if there are things that can be worked around, I feel that it was more important for me to put the work out there, because it wasn't much of a compromise. The images were still gonna go. It was just the wording, and it was, in terms of messaging, it was still there. It was just how you phrase the words. So for me, it was important to just put it out there and see how people receive it.
Talking about censorship, do you feel in your experience that the authorities that work with negotiating
Mhm.
these censorship, like even producers, programmers, people who work in IMDA. Do you think they're generally like supportive of
Mhm.
these works, but still trying to negotiate the rules that have been created? I mean, what's your experience with that?
My experience is very limited. Not dealt with IMDA a lot. But in my experience with the M1 Fringe Festival, it was. I feel like in the art scene, it's always a tango, where you got to learn how to play your cards well, how to negotiate and really understand where the other party is coming from as well. And yeah, the M1 Fringe Festival was very supportive of the work, and they were pushing for the work, and they went down to IMDA on my behalf. So yeah, I'm really grateful for the wonderful team at M1 Fringe Festival.
Shout
Shout
out
out
to
to M1.
M1. I'm sorry I moved to Circle's Life.
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
But yes, so it's. I feel like at the end of the day, the people at the censorship board are supportive of the arts. I hope. I think. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think they will want to censor something for the sake of just censoring it. There are always like considerations about like what Singaporeans might react, whether Singaporeans are ready for it. But yeah, as an artist, you also have to understand the climate, the political climate, the social climate, and let that inform your work as well and how you respond to that as well. It's all part of the artistic practice. Understanding where your work stands in the larger community, not just the arts community, but also the society that you're in. And especially in Singapore, where you're in a diverse kind of community, it is important to understand different viewpoints and to factor that into your work as well.
Transitioning from that, kind of, you're still making work and you're still going to make a lot more.
Yeah.
Do you think that at this point in your life that you would have been a better artist if you had gone to an arts conservatory such as like NAFA or LaSalle instead of like a liberal arts school?
What's a better artist?
Quote that.
Yeah.
The marks are coming out soon.
Totes and mugs.
But I don't know, like better in terms of like the craft or better in terms of like what? Like I feel that my craft can definitely be improved to understand like the technicalities of where the light is coming from, of where I should plug this wire in. But I feel that can be learned as you go. Just talking to people, talking to different industry players, your peers. It doesn't necessarily have to be gained from school per se. I mean, it's immediate life. You go to school, everything's just like given to you. I think I've not been to art school, so I don't know. But yeah, like these things, I feel it's more fun to learn on the ground. Just to figure things out, be a fool, get laughed at. But yeah, for me it was important to know the bigger context of what I'm working with, the bigger issues surrounding the work, as well as looking at different perspectives, and just really opening my eyes to the world, not just the art world, but also the world that I live in.
And one question circling back right to the start of this interview, like you wear a lot of badges and hats as an artist. You're in different disciplines, and there is this sentiment, this idea that in order to have a successful career, you need to specialize. I feel like you're proof that this is not the case. And
I guess.
I don't know.
would you have anything to say about this idea that floats around?
Sometimes that question floats around a lot in my head. Like, should I just like focus on photography and not do anything else? And then as a photographer, like I'm not really a legit photographer, so like, like I don't use like lighting and everything. So yeah, I really like struggle with that question. Like, can I even call myself an artist? I mean, I'm producing artworks, but they are all like vehicles for me to put forth a bigger message So I might not necessarily be an artist. Should I be an activist instead, or an artivist, or whatever they call it? So yeah, I really don't know. And it's still something that I'm trying to come to terms with and figure out as I go along. Yeah.
So
Great.
now that school's ending, what's next for you?
I have no clue. I feel like right now I'm in this stage where it's a limbo, where like, you know, one phase is ending and the next phase is starting, and I don't quite know what the next phase is. So there are things that are happening, but nothing's really confirmed yet. So right now I'm just waiting for things to, you know, settle down and come into place before I can really say what I am going to do for at least the next year. Yeah.
Are you like planning, like, you know, all your peers leaving university, applying for like full-time jobs, or have you decided in your head, no, I'm going to be an artist, I'm going to go freelance? What are the like current thoughts?
It's tougher. Really have no idea. Well, I do need to feed myself. Yes. I also don't want to be stuck doing something that I don't enjoy. And at this point in time, I feel like I still do want to continue creating. That there's still a lot of potential for me to, you know, develop works and to look into different kind of issues and different topics. But at the same time, I have no idea how I'm going to start, how I'm going to find the funding for it. These are all very big questions. So yeah, I'm just figuring out one step at a time.
One step at a time, I'm learning to fly. Okay.
I don't know this song.
I'm just going to snap my...
So one last question before we venture off into the great unknown, called lunch. We would like to know if you've got any tips for maybe younger artists who are looking to either get started professionally or looking to take a small step to advance their careers while they're still dealing with the responsibilities of school.
Like what I said earlier, just step out of school, but still be in school. But yeah, really exposing yourself to different things out there. Even if you're just a painter, you can go to like a theater show or a dance performance. Don't have to be, you know, fixated on just your medium. And really just exposing to yourself to not just the art scene or the art world, but also to larger issues out there, which may or may not affect the work that you do, but it's important to, you know, be in conversation, to understand what's happening out there, and to continue creating work, just to keep it coming, keep your creative juices flowing, because if you keep it for too long, well, it might be a good thing, like for my army, you know, so everything just bursts out. But yeah, just continue doing work, and not be afraid to, it's going to be very cliche, but, you know, not be afraid to just fail, and to experiment and to try new things. Yeah.
And maybe on that note, one final question for the boys in NS who are artists. How did you survive that time?
How did I survive that time?
Being away from art and always having that yearning.
Well, my brain was a mush for like 2 years. But yeah, I always have like random thoughts just floating in my head. And for me, it was really putting these random thoughts into fruition. And that's how it got started. And then things just spiraled from there. So yeah, just while it might be tough, while it might be physically draining, there's always these still lingering thoughts in you because you're not using your brain that much. But yeah, so yeah, just to keep those thoughts flowing and then keep a journal and then just to produce. Yeah.
Alright, and last question. Sean, have you finished your homework?
I have an essay due tomorrow. So no.
The real life of a
Of
student
artists. Balance. Now, the final segment we have in the show is we would like to help pitch something that you've got coming up. And the format is we'll give you 30 seconds to talk about the project, and we will try to present it again in the manner of song and dance. It tends to be a bit painful to look at.
Alright, I'll try and make it easier for you. So I have nothing really confirmed. I might have a performance coming up in September and another exhibition in August, but nothing is set in stone yet. But to get more updates, follow my Facebook page. You can just key in my name, Sean Cham, or my website, www.seancham.com, or my Instagram, Sean Cham. Yeah, just key in my name, you'll find it. Yeah.
Wait, hold up. You got your name as your IG handle?
Yes, I'm narcissistic.
Dang, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's me too.
Oh,
Isn't that you too?
no, I had to
I
add
feel
a
like it's
dot.
most people.
Oh,
Wow.
I don't know.
Thanks, Mom, for the most common name in the world.
John Tan.
Anyway, let's pitch
All
that
right,
back
we'll pitch
through
it. Is there a certain style
like a genre of music that you
we
like.
will do?
Genre of music. Let's do musical.
If you want to see work from someone who makes it work and wonder what other words I can rhyme with work, but focus on the work of Sean Cham on Facebook and Instagram and his website, which is www.seancham.com. Yeah,
Not musical stuff anymore.
we put you through that, and
Go to
for
his
watching it,
website.
thank you. Go to the site, check out his work. Sean is amazing.
I really enjoyed our interview. Thank you so much for coming on. It was great having you. And thanks for having me.
We hope you enjoyed the Tropical Arts Club. If you'd like to catch more episodes, be sure to hit subscribe and don't forget to follow us on Instagram.